Queenslanders have voted for change, with LNP leader David Crisafulli to be sworn in as the state's 41st Premier today, ending almost a decade of Labor control in the Sunshine State. Youth crime dominated the campaign, with the LNP vowing to introduce adult time for adult crime before Christmas. The results so far have also shown a strong divide between regional centres and the city, with the party winning 11 seats outside Brisbane.
The victory might have some federal implications, with David Crisafulli opposed to building nuclear power plants in his state, while the Albanese government will be dissecting the results in detail, with the federal election due by May next year. Well, let's go straight to our reporter Arianna Levy in Brisbane for us. G'day again, Ari. The Premier-elect has not wasted much time getting down to business, has he?
No, that's certainly right. Less than a few hours after his major celebratory victory at the W Hotel in Brisbane, he was already straight back to the gym and straight back right here at State Parliament yesterday morning. Now, he's got a mammoth task ahead of him. He's expected to deliver a number of election promises within the first 100 days he's officially sworn in today. And that includes this week alone having to draft a number of legislations, including the Making Queenslanders Safe law, which is that legislation that he touted a lot of his campaign on, ran under the slogan of adult crime, adult time, and it also included sort of curbing the youth crime crisis here in Queensland. He's also expected to conduct a review into the DNA lab debacle, as well as appoint a housing ministerial cabinet as well, task force. Now, the LNP did campaign on a fresh start for Queenslanders. He has said that he will be making sure that within the next week or so, to point the state will look very different to what it did over the last month or so. So a big task ahead of him today.
And Ari, the former Premier Stephen Miles wants to stay on as Labor leader. Do you think he'll be able to do so?
Oh, I think he does have full faith in his Labor members. He has emphasised that he would like to stay on as Labor leader, but has said that it will be ultimately up to the caucus. We have heard from sources that are close to the former Treasurer, Cameron Dick, that he supports Mr Miles in remaining as the Labor leader and says that he would also like to stay on as Deputy Leader. Now, he officially tendered his resignation to the Queensland Governor, Dr Jeanette Young, yesterday. So this is really something that he says will be able to help the Labor Party moving forward. But as you can imagine, there is going to be a lot of soul searching, especially after many of those seats were lost in the regions in the far north to the Labor Party. They say that they feel that they've lost a bit of trust in the government, and that's something that they will need to spend the next 4 years sort of regaining and connecting with regional Queenslanders.
You can see it's a little bit wet in the Sunshine State this morning. That's not going to stop all the different events that are happening today. Just tell us briefly, Ari, what is going to happen to swear in the new Premier?
Yeah, James, it seems like the weather didn't quite get the memo for David Crisafulli that today is a very exciting day for him. He is set to head over to Government House, where he will meet with the Governor, Dr Jeanette Young, and officially be sworn in as the 41st Premier of the state. Now, he will unveil an interim government alongside his Deputy, Jared Blay, and that Shadow Ministry Cabinet will also be unveiled later this week. So far, up until the election day, we did hear that he was intending to make sure that a lot of his shadow ministers remained in their existing portfolios, but he did leave that door open yesterday when he spoke to the press, so we wait to see what exactly happens a little bit later. But certainly a packed day ahead of him for the soon-to-be newly appointed 41st Premier of the state, James.
All right, Ari, I hope you and your camera operator are going to stay dry. And a reminder, we're going to be speaking to the Premier-elect in about 25 minutes' time.
We need one of those ABC News umbrellas here. Well, Australians with older mobile phones won't be able to make phone calls from today because Telstra and Optus are officially shutting down their 3G network to help boost the 4 and 5G services instead. Our reporter Melissa McKay joins us now from Sydney to unpack this for us. Mel, what will this system shutdown mean for mobile phone users who use 3G?
Good morning, Bridget. Well, it's bad news if you've got an older device or if you rely on the 3G network because, as you've said, it is shutting down, and it does mean that anyone who does rely on that 3G service won't be able to connect and, crucially, won't be able to call 000. That's one of the main concerns this morning as this shutdown begins. The 3G network is around 20 years old, and so it's being shut down to make way for the 4 and 5G network services to be improved. Now, most Australians, Bridget, already use the 4 and 5G networks, particularly in bigger cities like Sydney, but it is some of those regional and remote areas and some particularly sort of isolated corners of this country where people still rely on the 3G network and still need to connect to that in order to connect to the outside world. And so there are some concerns in those regional and remote areas about how this shutdown will impact them. And it's not just mobile phone devices as well that will be affected by this 3G shutdown. There's also medical devices that may be impacted, some farming equipment as well. So people are being urged to contact the manufacturers of those devices to make sure that they won't be affected, or to see what they can do in order to keep their equipment running. This 3G shutdown has been planned since around 2019, the telcos say, in order to really make way for this 4 and 5G network to be rolled out and expanded. And as I say, most people in the country are already using those sort of that newer system, but it is this 3G network that will be shut down from today. It may take about a week for it to fully come into effect. There are some areas that will still be getting patches of 3G for the next couple of days, but crucially from today, anyone who relies on that 3G network may not be able to, or will not be able to, make calls and crucially contact 000.
Thanks a lot, Mel, for explaining it all to us, and we'll have a bit more on the program this morning to explain the changes for you.
Now, Northern Territory prison guards are considering taking industrial action, fearing crisis levels of overcrowding could trigger riots. Prisoner numbers hit more than 2,300 on Friday, prompting the NT government to enact emergency measures and relocate inmates. The Corrections Department says there's no safety risk to prison guards or inmates, but the United Workers Union is telling its members to stay home today if they don't feel safe.
A WA mother whose son died in a crash in the state's southwest says she'd like to see more restrictions on P-plate drivers beyond passenger limits. Yesterday, the Premier Roger Cook announced people in their first 6 months of driving will be restricted to having just one passenger in their car from December.
Startling new statistics show 40% of children aren't meeting the national benchmarks for swimming and water safety before they leave primary school. The latest Royal Lifesaving Australia National Drowning Report reveals that the risk of drowning increases tenfold for youth and young adults aged 10 to 20 because of a clear decline in swimming, water safety and life-saving skills.
Completely shocking, and it's been declining for many, many years. And in some suburbs, the outer suburbs of our major capital cities, the figures are really frightening, and they're much, much higher.
Western Australia has been named Australia's best performing state economy for the first time in a decade. ComSec's State of the States report found a buoyancy in mining and strong population growth have been supporting WA's housing and labour markets. South Australia has been dethroned after topping the chart for 3 consecutive reports.
And British musician Adele has been brought to tears after spotting her idol Celine Dion in the crowd during her Las Vegas residency. The pair, who have both praised each other in the past, shared a hug at the theatre in Caesar's Palace, which was originally built for Dion when she began her Vegas residency back in 2003.